What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by The One, Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force, Paul Hall, Jibby Jedi, Chocolate Saiyan, and 10th Man in G+. Very good to have you one and all.
Great to be here, Nathan.
Hello.
And we also have a whole bunch of people in Discord. Very good to have you in the Discord server.
Good to be here.
All shout at once in Discord.
Someone said hello. Very good to have you. Thanks for being here. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from San Francisco.
Not from Bulgaria.
From Tenerife?
No.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, yes. I think Danny Faulkner saw axial rotation under Tony's bus today.
That's axis, the rotation of an axle, right? That's very different.
Well, that's why he got shafted.
So just for those of you who don't know, prior to the conference, we were, or I was at least, I'll only speak for myself, slightly outraged that there's this astronomer, PhD, at the Flat Earth Convention, or Conference, FEIC, and we asked Nathan Thompson, Sleeping Warrior more than I, if he would be so kind as to go up to this astronomer and ask him very specifically, how can you have gas pressure without a container? And Nathan Thompson, big shout out to you, my friend, obliged and went up to him and asked him that. And what he got as an answer was a dumbfounded silence. Now I'm going to give a shout out to Arwen at this point, who completely called it. So check out Flat Earth 1021, where Arwen says, correctly so, that he would not have an answer. And that's precisely what happened. So big shout out to Arwen, who got it spot on.
Well, maybe since he's under the bus observing axial rotation and got shafted, his comeback was lost due to transmission.
It's getting worse. Talking of gas pressure, any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Shout out to Danny Faulkner.
Silence.
Shout out retracted.
Yeah. Do you know, I was listening back to the premiere show last night, Nathan, and I've got to say that I was being proper bullied for the whole show.
Bullied my ass. You completely misrepresented my argument. So at one stage you said, I don't think we should give him the mic and put him on stage. Like, talk about totally misrepresenting our argument. At no point did anybody suggest that we stick him on stage and give him a bloody time slot. But that's how you were representing our argument in your defence. It's like, wow, way to misrepresent us.
I think, to be honest, I think there might have been a little bit of a breakdown.
Then it was a little weird, Riley, because you were like, what do you guys want to do? Put him on stage and have a debate with him? Like, what do we do every day?
Yeah, exactly.
This is what we do.
I was just trying to protect the interests of the people that were going there, that maybe wanted to just spend time networking and stuff with the people that were there, rather than seeing this newbie on the block that's writing a book and all that. So I was just being a little bit more conservative. But after the show, obviously in the after show, me, Chocolate, Nathan, John, Arwen, we were all having a conversation, and John persuaded me with a bit of brute force that I need to change my position. And I was like, do you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do it. So I did change my position, and well, we all know he's not going to answer the question because he can't. Because we all know you can't have gas pressure without a container. It's required. Even
Perfect.
Billy Blue Balls, he knows you need a container, but he still won't change his video.
Perfect. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
Anybody?
No apparent difference.
On the one?
Nope.
No, this one's not a flavour of the month. Distance to the sun. Fair enough. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Presupposed.
No natural phenomena to presuppose it.
What about a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of said presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, that's purely impossible.
A little bit of
Nope.
seismology.
Any evidence of any viable hypothesis in the entire history of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nope, definitely not.
Shout out to Danny Faulkner.
Another shout out to Danny Faulkner. Any scientific
Shout out to
evidence of
Tracker.
gravity? Gravity? Scientific evidence thereof? Anybody?
Nah.
What is gravity?
Bending of a conceptual medium to give rise to a not actual force.
No, you cannot bend the concept.
No, you can't bend a concept, that's correct. But that's what they call it in their current pseudoscience rhetoric of Einsteinian gravity.
Well, then there's no evidence for that because it can't happen.
On that
correct.
note, Riley, did you mention at some point that this guy was describing gravity and didn't mention Einstein at all?
Yeah. I got a copy of his book because I wanted to read it because he's a new kid on the block. I've not come across him until very in the last fortnight. I've never heard of him before, and I wanted to read what he wrote. And obviously, there's a couple of topics that I'm most interested in. A lot of the topics I'm not really that interested in. You know, I can take it or leave it. I'll listen to somebody else arguing over it. But one of my interesting topics is gravity, and I got his book. So I read his chapter on gravity, and he doesn't mention Einstein. Not that I'm saying that Einstein's right, but he is your current science for gravity, right? It's not a force; it's the bending of a conceptual medium. But he doesn't even mention it. So how can a PhD refuting flat Earth with current science not cite Einstein for gravity? It's like, hello.
But that's not what he did. I highlighted this the moment you started on that section. Excellent book review, by the way, Anthony. I was totally hooked. I stayed with you for the whole stream. It was great. Anyway, the entire premise was a burden of proof reversal fallacy. So he immediately went from gravity to what flat earthers say gravity is, as opposed to defining it in any way, shape or form. He just immediately flipped the burden of proof onto us and what we say is. It's like, we don't make claims about gravity. That's you moron. That's your rhetoric. Why are you talking about what flat earthers say it is? Who cares?
But how can he write a book refuting flat Earth when he doesn't mention Einstein? Surely he's got to get even if it's just an honorary mention as being like a cool dude, you've got to mention him in gravity somewhere, haven't you?
No,
Surely.
you haven't. You can't. All of his rhetoric requires a force to do things, and he doesn't have one in Einsteinian gravity, so they just revert to the previous gravity that was a force. So that's why he does it, because he needs a force, and gravity isn't one. Well, it is if he describes it as Cavendish Reverend Michel gravity, also known incorrectly as Newtonian, but that's not the current bullshit, as you correctly pointed out.
Or maybe he's still stuck in 2015, 2016 arguments where laws were still saying gravity is a force. I mean, obviously they're still saying it now, but
Yeah, but they say it now they say it very nervously now, though. Have you noticed?
exactly my point. But this guy obviously feels like he wasn't challenged on the point and is kind of just brushing it under the rug. Like, maybe the flat earthers won't know that Einstein's bending of space-time replaced or superseded mass attracting mass. Because is that what he says it is in his book? Mass attracting mass?
Yeah, he's referencing all the Newtonian principles, the classical mechanics one, and I'm like, really? Why would you do this?
Well, maybe he's not up to date with the flat Earth debate.
Nathan, are you suggesting that he absolutely knows that Einstein's the current mass and he misrepresents it on purpose?
No, it's needs must that the devil drives, right? He needs a force, so he's going to find a force in Newtonian, incorrectly labelled, gravity. So that's what he applies.
Yeah, because how do you argue bending of space-time? How do you even argue that?
I hope somebody goes to him and says, "Why did you not reference Einstein at all in your book?" and see what he says. You just get that blank stonewall faced expression that Nathan got, where he's got nothing to say.
Yeah, he's 100 years out of date. That's unfortunate for him. Not a problem for us. We'll just point it out. You're not parroting the right pseudoscience, Doctor.
Oh, Arwin, was that you saying then?
Yeah.
So Pascal's law, I heard you talking about that and arguing with a couple of them idiots. And you're right, Pascal's law is describing what the pressure does, and it doesn't make any reference to the gradient whatsoever. However, the gradient itself is caused by mass, and we know that because the mass is stacking on top of mass. And I know there's no intermolecular bonds, but there's still gases, like the gas pools, doesn't it? I know it's subject to the effects of entropy, and we need the sealed container if it's in a vacuum. But when you've got the unsealed container in the environment that we're in, the effects of entropy are a lot slower because we're similar to the density and the environment that the gas is pooling in the first place. So it's a lot slower. But put it in a vacuum and watch it go poof. Pascal's law says it points in all available directions evenly away from the walls of the container. Well, the Earth would be the container in that context, or everything's going off into space. They just don't like it. Arwin, do you want to stick yourself on mute?
No.
Okay, well, we'll listen to you typing instead then.
It's all right. I don't hear a lot of glow proofs coming through the wire, so
No, I
I
neither
guess
do I.
typing it is.
Don't hold your breath.
So, anybody got any comments about me going over the top?
Over
No?
the top. What do you mean? I didn't see
Oh,
even
you
do
didn't see it, did you?
I didn't see you do a stream. I was refreshing the page, and I refreshed it as many times as I could before I set this show up, and I didn't see you. I'd normally be watching while I set up, and I just didn't see your stream.
Darwin,
I got really pissed off
What are you pissed off
I
with,
saw
Darwin?
it and I really liked it.
against the freaking trolls. This
Yeah, you
ballers
pay.
doubling down on lies constantly, and they wouldn't stop. They just wouldn't stop, and I couldn't take it anymore.
They're just liars, though, Arwin. They can't have no gravity. They need to have gravity.
Never even got to that point. Just this guy that brought on that Pascal's law nonsense. He just would not admit that there is no addressing of gradient within the body of fluid pressure. It's just not addressed, and they just refused to go with it. It just wouldn't accept. It doesn't matter where they look. They just never accept the truth. Wherever they look, they're always lying. Always.
Deny.
I'm so sick of it. I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, it's deny. They have to do it, though. It's like Billy Blue Balls. He wouldn't admit that he's got his label of his video totally wrong. He won't admit it. Why?
It's not just deny. They expand their lies.
Yeah.
They make more lies based on denial. More and more and more. It's not just keeping one lie. No, they actually expand upon their lies.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of it. I can't believe they're allowing themselves to do that.
There you go. There you go. Allowing themselves. This is not your problem, Arwin. So what they're doing is they're projecting this onto you, and your frustration saves them their frustration. This is their problem, not yours. You don't need to concern yourselves with these fundies doubling down, rinsing and repeating, expanding out their bullshit, never accepting a rebuttal. That's not your problem. You know, sleep easy, mate. They don't.
I don't know. I'm not sleeping that easy over it. It's just...
You should be sleeping easy because it's not you that's pushing the overt lie. It's them. I just like reminding them that they haven't got a force. Just kills them. They hate it.
Have you guys seen the new NASA spacesuits for like the female or something?
It's like with the swivel hips.
Yeah, you guys want to share it?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't
sure.
turn your head, but you can swivel your hips.
Yeah, let's have a look. You got a picture?
It looks pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
Share screen.
So these are the new Narnia suits. These suits
Yeah.
are going to be claiming to go to the not actual region known as space.
Okay, let's start from the top.
Let me know
There
when.
it is.
Okay, let's have a look. Oh yes, I did see this.
Yeah, and then
Doesn't she look happy?
I wonder why they went with swivel at the hips for women. Like,
I can't wait for the test in the vacuum chamber that I'm sure they'll do this time, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm,
right.
I'm
just to test
sure.
the seal, if
just
nothing
a
else.
test. I'm just waiting for one test where an astronaut is walking around. They got this giant vacuum chamber, right? One test where one of these guys is walking around in that vacuum chamber in that suit.
No, it makes more sense to test the suit in the opposite environment in a big pool. That makes sense.
Oh, man.
No, not test. Film. Film, Jibby.
Films, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that every one of those suits has a flux capacitor.
Yeah.
Very good. So yeah, that's never going anywhere.
No. So do ballers still think that gravity's a force? That seems to be the common theme still, even though everybody knows it's not one. They still seem to be pushing that, do they?
Just going to put on screen what Chocolate Saints just sent. There you go. There's a comparison for you.
Yep.
I mean, let's not forget that if we did something that required a force and we didn't have a force and we couldn't prove it, right, they'd never let us have it.
Shout out to Cleary for the super chats. He says, "Oh God, let's bring it up on the other screen rather than just trying to read it on this small screen." Hold on one sec. There's Globetard Demis suits. Did I read that right?
Yeah. Globetartemis suits. That's right.
What the hell does that mean? Thank you for the super chat, though.
It's a Latinification of a globetard.
Oh, I see. I see. He's making it sound Latin. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, by the way, right underneath that comment is Warren Evans. It's the very person I was talking about. He's back. He's the one that did it.
Did what? Sent you nuts?
Yeah, he's the one that refused to correct himself when I literally proved in detail with the very source page through Wikipedia of the effect, again, Pascal's law, that it did not address any gradient, and he just couldn't do it.
Yeah, it doesn't need to address
So
the
I banned
gradient.
him.
It's talking about how the gas pressure behaves, not the constitution of the gas.
Right. It addressed the change of the entire container. Doesn't address any gradients within the container. Doesn't address pressure differentials within the closed liquid system. Just doesn't address it. But he can't help but claim that it somehow disproves the gradient. He can't do it. He can't let it go.
It's like Billy Blue Balls. He just won't admit that he's got his video completely and utterly, well, wrong. Not just wrong, but he knows it's wrong as well, and he still won't change it. You have to wonder, like, I mean, it's one thing to get the wrong photo with the guy in Paris, and same name, same city, roughly the same time of the year, same time of chronology, and one of them's a philosopher, the other one's a heliocentric physicist. I mean, what's the difference between a philosopher and a heliocentric physicist at that time, right? They're both essentially the same thing. So at least I made an innocent mistake, and I realized, and when I got someone pointed it out to me, and when I realized, I fixed it straight away. But I deserve all the ammunition fired my way because I made an error. But he doubles down and stands his ground, and it's like, dude, how can you do this with any integrity whatsoever? And obviously you can't. And then when you read his comments underneath his video and how some people are praising him for walking the walk, and I'm like, what do you mean walking the walk? The guy's he's wrong about his position. You can see that the comforting lie does suit a lot of people very comfortably. It's really bad.
Where'd you get the gradient in the first place?
Yeah. They want to argue over the constitution of the gradient. Well, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about how you have the gradient in the first place.
But where'd you get the gradient in the first place?
Have a look at Billy Blue Ball's video. He demonstrates a gas pressure gradient in a container admirably for us. It's fantastic, actually, from that perspective.
Yeah, well, that works for us. So just role play with me. Where'd you get the gradient in the first place?
Gravity.
No, gravity's not force. It's not going to give you gradiated gas.
Well, 10th man said, work with, he said, work with me.
Where did you get the gradient? Where'd you get the gradient of the gas in the first place? What do you have to have first before you get that?
The container.
Gas pressure.
Gas pressure.
And gas.
Yeah, so please demonstrate your side of the argument right now. Demonstrate that to me next to a vacuum.
Yeah, they can't. They just they demand that.
So then why are you going to Pascal? You're arguing within the what? The fallacy again.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know that. I just like reminding them that. I know that. I just like reminding them that even their own science doesn't support their assertions on this one.
No, but if we learn anything on the show, it's that once you identify a fallacy, kill it on the spot.
Sure.
Okay,
yeah,
so
Sleeping Warrior likes to bait them. This is what he does. He baits them in.
When the killer whale gets the seal and he flips it around the water a few times and then he gets bored. That's all I'm doing, really.
This was more for Arwen's guy who kept coming wouldn't correctly identify Pascal's actual findings. So he's going to hijack it to make it seem like it proves his point. So then why even go there? Because you convolute it. So just say, where do you get the gradient? Gas pressure. Okay. So please show me here gas pressure with a gradient next to a vacuum. Please show that to me.
Yeah, if you're going to phrase it like that, you've got to add a little caveat. Beyond your fundamentalist religious belief in a sky vacuum, because typically, like Son of an Astronaut M. Scott Veach, they'll just point at the sky. Circular reasoning then sets in immediately, and they think that they've won the argument when they assert their circular reasoning. Well, the atmosphere would be an example of that. No. So that's why the question is phrased more accurately. How can you have gas pressure without a container? As opposed to how can you have gas pressure next to a vacuum?
Right. No, you're right. But I was already in, how could I say it, in my mind in the debate with the guy, and I've already told him you can't have it without a container. So please do it the way you say it.
And I appreciate it very much so. But on the other hand, maybe it's directed at chocolate. You can't have 10th man pointing out to Sleeping Warrior that you should cut the entire argument off at the legs rather than debate within the fallacy, unless Anthony's started to do that. So there's a kind of symbiosis, if that's the correct word, required between people actually asserting incorrect arguments and us pointing out why they're incorrect. Well,
if someone, just off the top of my head, if someone just wants to say, well, what about Pascal? They go, well, what about him? State your case. Okay, great. Demonstrate it. You're not going to demonstrate it.
Sure, exactly. Can't have gas pressure without a container.
It's in the definition. And even when you show them the definition, they still deny it.
Yeah. People deny entropy. They're arguing about whether or not an open container is a container. That makes them fundamentally stupid. But ultimately speaking, while they're saying, well, there you go, that defies what you've asked for. Well, no, the question hasn't changed in 18 months. How can you have gas pressure without a container? Showing us an open pipe that's very, very tall with a massive surface area and a tiny hole at the top relative to the size and surface area isn't showing gas pressure without a container. It's showing you a leaky container. Now, the further assertion is that, well, there you go, we've got Earth as an open gas pipe with massive surface area for the for the gas pressure. No, that's not analogous to your marble in a vacuum either, because you haven't got any walls. Gas expands in all directions. Now, in a pipe, it can expand in all directions. Occasionally, some of the gas will go out the hole. Now, that effect is called entropy. Now, given enough time, this is where the argument becomes ludicrous. Oh, no, we've defined entropy with a pipe. No, you haven't. Given enough time, not only will the gas fill the available volume, i.e. it will all leave the pipe itself would succumb to nature. It will also suffer the effects of entropy given enough time. The pipe itself wouldn't be there. It's going to succumb to entropy like everything. It's a natural law. But here we are arguing in a short period of time, given that entropy is proportional to time, how it doesn't fill the space. Well, yeah, it will eventually, though. That's entropy. You're not going to defy it. It's a natural law. Not only will the gas fill the space from the open container, pipe, into the available volume, i.e. the atmosphere, it will also degrade the pipe, given enough time. And the house behind it. Yeah, for God's sake. People don't understand entropy.
I think they do. I think they have to obfuscate it like they do on all topics so that the audience is left confused.
Yeah,
well, the heliocentric position is not scientific. They're science deniers, like you said on that one video that went out with the music background. Natural law backs flat Earth, not heliocentrism.
Yeah, of course.
Let me just boil it down for the morons, right? You're the ones that are arguing that no, the gas isn't going to fill the available volume. It's going to indefinitely stay in the pipe because he filmed it 3 hours later. Yeah, time, entropy, the two things are directly connected. So what happens if you come back 100 years later? I'll tell you something for nothing. That pipe won't be there. The house won't be there. It'll all be in bloody rubble because that's entropy. Given 1,000 years, the whole thing will be dust. Yeah, what you think the pipe will still have the gas in it? Morons.
Utter morons. Just remember, they've always got to deny. You see that all the time. The rumpus will never, ever, ever admit. Actually, sometimes the rumpus has admitted a couple of times that he might not be right on something. Maybe rumpus is a bad example on this one occasion. But ballers fundamentally will never, ever concede points. Billy Blue Balls is one of them. He's proof.
Did we all enjoy the coverage of FEIC over the weekend?
Oh yeah, great.
I didn't see much of it, to be honest.
I saw all of it. What was available on YouTube.
What?
I saw all of it, which was available on YouTube.
The only part I saw was Danny Faulkner not answering Nathan.
Yeah. I've never come across anything I couldn't refute. Oh, hi, Nathan. How do you have gas pressure without a container? Silence. Well, now you just have, mate.
Silence of the Lamb.
I told you guys he'd be the one to do it. I said,
Well, now,
Good call. I mean, you were here while we were talking him into it, right, Chocolate? I mean, that didn't end up being very useful.
I was the one during the episode that I was like, if anybody will do it, Nathan Thompson is the guy to get.
No, but I mean, after that recording ended, so we were all chatting about it for a further hour, and then Anthony said, just start recording, we'll get him on the line. And although I recorded it, it ended up being, better summarised with Anthony putting a couple of speech bubbles with him and Nathan Thompson on the backdrop of the video that's just been mirrored by Mark Sargent. So that was a better way than just publishing us saying to Nathan Thompson, go and ask him how you can have gas pressure without a container. But that was ultimately the narrative that got put through on those speech bubbles, and it took 30 seconds to summarise that 20-minute recording. There was no point in publishing it. But what it showed was that, as I say, good call, Chocolate, getting Nathan Thompson on the case, because he's more of an activist. I know on your broadcast you said you'd asked Jaron, Sleeping Warrior, and maybe that's not his bag. He's not that confrontational. When he got into a debate because he had to with Red's Rhetoric based on a bargain that he'd made with him over the ISS from memory, this is going back a time, even in debate he wasn't overly confrontational. That's just not his shtick, which is perfectly reasonable. Nathan Thompson, on the other hand, that is definitely his shtick. He was like on it like flies on shit. Kudos, Nathan Thompson. I don't want that to sound like I'm...
He was raw, wasn't he?
Yeah, but like I said...
Use any lube.
I don't want that to sound in any way detrimental to Jaron, because, as I say, if that's not your bag, that's not your bag. But getting Nathan Thompson on the case, I was extremely chuffed to see that as the result, because only hours after that was published by you and then Mark Sargent, our discussion about it came out a couple of hours later, where we're all saying, why aren't you all outraged and going up to him? And it's like, oh well, all's well that ends well. Nathan's actually achieved that prior to the conference ending, and it's like, yeah, that's a nice, that's the cherry on top, right? Because all the other things, although we were kind of condemning them in this regard, when we were saying, no, yeah, holding each other's dicks isn't what it's about when there's a guy that's directly in opposition to what you're standing for at the conference. I did later on go on to say, no, all those things are still very positive, but it sours the experience if he hadn't been approached, but instead, because he was, it's just the cherry on top of what was obviously a very nice event that went off really well. So it's brilliant. It's one of those things that if it didn't happen, you'd be annoyed. Because it has, you're all smiles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I saw that. I saw Nathan post that even before Sleeping Warrior made the video, which was great because, like you said, it worked out beautifully with the bubbles and stuff, and then he had the actual event happening on video to play right afterwards, and that was great. Timing was awesome. I'm glad it happened.
We should do the 8 housekeeping questions in the bubble speech, and with Danny Faulkner sitting there not saying anything, and rename a new book to 8 questions I couldn't answer.
Yeah, the 8 questions I couldn't refute. That was the word he used, refute.
He's just not saying anything. So this is a better title. I couldn't answer these 8.
Or you can put a title on it as Danny Faulkner summarizes all the science about the heliocentric model in one sentence, and they're just like silence.
Yeah. I hope he realizes who we are now, and that I'd love to have him. Can you imagine him coming into one of these hangouts and we just say to him, "Okay, Danny, so you're obviously not a troll, you're not a pure denier, but you do claim to be a man of science. What science is there?" And just start working our way through the questions, calm, gently, and then seeing what happens. And I can't see him really getting past half of the questions without anything other than mumbo jumbo.
He would never come on here.
He's never coming on
that
a
won't
show
happen.
like this. He was frightened to death by Nathan Thompson.
Yeah, you look like what's the word? A weak old man. George, he looked a little bit like George Nathaniel, didn't he? He looked scared.
Listen, by the time Nathan Thompson got to Danny Faulkner, Nathan Thompson already had his phone thrown by George, someone tipping his cap ready for a fight, and then here comes Danny Faulkner saying, "Is this that same guy?"
Yeah, he basically upstaged everyone, didn't he, Nathan Thompson? He's like out there not causing a bit of a ruckus, just getting involved in ruckuses.
Yeah. It was funny because I showed him a copy of it before I went public with it, and when I played it back, I didn't quite get the timings right. It was a bit too fast, so I had to go back and redo it again. But he said when he watched it, he just said to me, literally, he read me back, and he said he'd just put "lol, hold my beer," and it was just that one line that's just like, yeah, Nathan's gonna go get jump all over this.
Any other notable things from the conference other than hats being tipped, people getting kicked out for trolling? Anything else anyone can note?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't need to talk about any of the like troll incidents, do we? Let's talk about all the good things that happened, because there was loads. I mean, if you haven't been to one of the conferences, I mean, they're worth going just to see people. That networking. I know people say, "Oh, it's come by art," but to be honest, there's nothing wrong with come by art in a conference setup, because that's kind of one of the attractive points. Because let's not forget, the ballers can't have a conference. You're never going to see a baller conference of the Ball Earth conference, right? It's never going to happen. You might see them all in a pub having a couple of drinks in like a very niche area, but you're never going to see a Ball Earth conference. So I'd embrace it if I was you while it's there, because if they run out of gas, we'll miss them when they're gone.
Shout out to Isa Mahalski. It says, quote, "Heliocentrism," start that again. Quote, "Heliocentrism cannot be disproven, but we reject the horror of a non-fixed position on philosophical grounds." Smiley face, end quote.
That's okay then.
He's talking about the CMB, isn't he?
Pardon?
Talking about the CMB. The conclusion you would draw is that you're at a central position, but they reject it because it's not it's not conducive,
Yeah,
right?
that sounds like a paraphrase from Hubble.
Yep.
Said that.
Yep.
Well, just stick around this show. You'll see heliocentrism be disproven on a daily basis.
The shout out to Issa Holski. Thank you very much for the super chat, Issa.
Shout out retracted.
How dare you? They can't retract a shout out for
Shout out
Issa.
reinstated.
Get him. Just for those of you who don't know, Issa Mahalski is the guy, much more handsome than myself, that flashes up on the pictures wearing a hoodie from Flat Earth Debate hoodie. That's Issa Mahalski, just in case anyone was wondering who Issa Mahalski is. That's him.
But Tony, imagine if they had a Bullard conference, how many flat earthers would you get there? Tons.
What would you call it?
I don't know.
The flattening.
A TED Talk.
Nah, that's too specific. I was thinking that while you were talking. I thought, should I interrupt and mention something about, various different astronomy conventions and things like that? But they're uber specific to a given topic, as opposed to people pressing the flesh because they are of an anti-flat Earth mindset. So that's what we mean when we say ballers. We actually, the specific category would be anti-flat earthers, right? That's who we're talking about. Not average Joe who just goes, oh, I think I might go and watch Neil deGrasse Tyson or Stephen, whoever, Brian Cox, it doesn't matter. They're not who we're talking about. The ballers are anti-flat earthers. That's what they actually are. But what would you call a convention of them?
Praising the space testicle.
Desperate.
So if is it a group of geese is called a gaggle or whatever? Everything's got a name. We need to give a name to a group of ballers that are in their own conference. We should have a competition.
I thought it was a harem.
How about
Isn't it harem? Harem of
Absolutely.
fuckwits? Oh, that got ruined.
A
Now you
harem.
know, now you know my pain, Nathan.
Yeah, my joke's totally spoiled. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat it.
They're never going to put on a conference. Hey, let's put on a conference to prove we live on the globe.
Well, they can't, can they? That's why I'm saying we should embrace it whilst they're there. Because if they run out of steam for any reason, everyone that's not been to one, they'll regret not going because they are fun.
Well, they do have the dances called the ball, so maybe they always have had one.
Let's just ask them, when is the Bullard conference happening?
Yeah, like they ask us, where's your model and all that. Let's say, well, when's your Ball Earth conference, dickheads?
Very good. I like that.
Well, in all fairness, they don't really need a conference because everything is a celebration of the globe in the heliocentric model.
No, let's make them put on a conference by just teasing them, and then they'll be showing NASA videos with harnesses.
I'll tell you what I found interesting in that guy's book. He was referencing how flat earthers jumped all over one particular citation. I can't remember what it was from. Oh, it was to do with observing curvature out of plane windows, right? He reckons you can see the curvature at 30,000 feet, right? Even though Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't see it at 127,000 feet, that stuff is flat. And then his next paragraph was about Neil deGrasse Tyson, which I thought he was going to reference that stuff is flat. And he wasn't. He was referencing something else about Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I'm like, this guy doesn't really know much about the arguments here. He's not really mentioning the key things he needs to mention, and he's ignoring the stuff that's like, it's just bizarre how it's interesting to see his perspective on it, because his perspective differs greatly from ours.
Not much.
Remember, he's coming from a PhD in astronomy perspective, right?
Well, he's a new Earth creationist as well, so he's coming from a religious perspective, I believe, based on what people have been saying to me.
Yeah, well, Nathan asked him about that too. Actually, before the gas pressure, Nathan asked him about his perspective coming from the Christian view, and again, he had no response. He just didn't want to say anything to the guy.
Yeah, I think he argues that science proves creation, doesn't he?
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what
I
his
think that's
arguments
his
are.
angle.
Oh, that's an oxymoron. We're here.
Yeah, ipso facto.
My goodness. I don't need anything to prove that I'm here. I'm here.
Prove it.
Guys, give me 20 minutes and be ready to laugh a lot.
You want me to prove it, Chocolate? Nathan will get mad. I'll have about 30 puns in a row.
I'm mad about that, bro.
I know. Oh, it's nonsense. This guy's all about fame, money, and being at the top of his field. And, oh, by the way, I'm a Christian. Oh, really? Then why don't you believe the Bible cosmology? What kind of Christian are you?
So he doesn't accept the Christian perspective.
He can't. In the Christian cosmology, God made the sun, the moon, and the stars after he made the earth. And he put it inside, something called the firmament, the rakia.
So that makes more sense for why he sat there with a blank expression on his face when Nathan was asking his questions. Because you can interpret it that he couldn't answer, or you can interpret it that he chose not to because reasons. Now, if he's I've never really thought about it from his New Earth perspective as a religion-based scientist or whatever, because it is a kind of contradiction in terms, isn't it?
That's
Not
why
kind of.
Nathan was
It is a
asking him,
contradiction.
do you know what it says in the Bible about those perpetuating lies and shit like that? Because of his Christian view.
Yeah, that was Nathan's view, wasn't it?
Clearly, the Bible is a geocentric book. Clearly. You can't get around it. So what they do, Anthony, is they say, oh, it's figurative, it's poetic, it means this. Except Genesis is not the Psalms, it's not Proverbs. It's written, in fact, this is how the six-day creation was. So they can't get around it. They just doublespeak.
I did 12 years of Jesuit Catholic school, and they taught both Big Bang, creation, but they always leaned on Big Bang being the more true, as, like you were saying, the creation story of the Bible was more like poetic, and, well, this is what the people back then may have. They made it more poetic, but they leaned heavy on science.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
because Lemaitre. Did you hear about Lemaitre while you were there?
Who?
George Lemaitre.
No, I'm not ringing a bell.
George Lemaitre is the Jesuit priest who discovered and made up Big Bang.
Oh, yeah. They didn't teach that in school, though. I learned that later.
Right, but that came from the Catholics.
Yeah, I tried. The only way I could resolve it was to combine the two and say God created the Big Bang.
Well, that's my view on it. If there was a Big Bang, that would be the moment of inception from like a divine intervention that would go, do you know what? I'm going to stick an Earth and I'm going to stick it there. Boom, and it arrived. And then I could see that being a Big Bang, because if I was the creator or a creator and I wanted to create something, I'd be doing it with an explosion. That makes sense to me. But to denounce that it's anything to do with creation seems the antithesis of everything to me. It's, if there was creation, a Big Bang would be the way it would be done. But you can't have a Big Bang without like somebody lighting a match.
Hang on, where'd you get the match?
Explosions are destructive.
Yeah, you had pre-match. Pre-substance before the pre-match that created the Big Bang out of nothing. You had pre-substance.
Hey, Chocolate, we got top people working on this.
But see, if you use the Bible, though, there was something there that God used. So if you just, from a biblical argument, there was something there. Not a philosophical argument nor scientific argument, from a biblical argument. Does anybody know what that substance was?
I do.
What was there? In the beginning, water. What was there? What was the? There was nothing in the beginning, was there?
No, there was water.
Oh yes, he separated the waters.
Well, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the first line, isn't it?
Yes, but the point is that he never talked about creating the water. It's as if it was already there and was created prior to him creating everything. So the water was there and there was a void, and he took it from that and just expanded the 6 days from there.
Hold on, say that again. Hold on. What do you mean the water was always there because it wasn't talked about?
Well, it never said he created the water. It was as if it was already created to begin with.
No, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Yes, that's a summary. Not just go on with the rest of the verse, and you'll see that
now the
water
was formless, wasn't it? Isn't that the next line?
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Just pull it up. Genesis 1 is real simple.
I'm reading it. I've actually got a Bible in my hand right now.
Okay, read it. Read it. So like,
in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over waters.
Okay, so he created everything, and then he just jumps right into it where the water was there, and he starts doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it seems so obvious. Like,
Now,
I don't know. I don't know. It can be a Big Bang.
So why? No, it's not the Big Bang. That's the whole point. So why?
I know.
These people who say that.
How could the waters have been there before he created the earth?
No, that's water. No, he created the water too, Chocolate. It's just it never goes into saying I created the waters and then it was formless and void. It just starts there.
It seems to me.
So basically, him saying he created the earth, that would just be inclusive of land, water, everything.
Everything.
Okay.
Correct.
That's the way I take it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, because he created everything.
So the way are you guys familiar with the Eden Project? It's in like southeast of England, southwest of England. It's
I'm in California, so I wouldn't know about that.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
It's basically a dome. It's like a big dome. It's like I think they call it a bio world or a bioculture or a biodome or something. Yeah. And the idea of it is it's supposed to be self-sustaining, no outside contact with the outside world or something like that. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. It's not exactly like that. But the point is, I imagine that when I read that opening paragraph in the Bible, I read that one paragraph and I imagine a big ocean, and then now the earth was formless and God did this, that, and the other. It seems to me like he creates a dome at the bottom of the sea, and the bottom of the sea becomes the land, and then everything around it is the waters of heaven. As if we're underwater.
No, keep reading, Anthony, and it'll say he separated the waters from the waters by creating the firmament.
Yeah, separated the waters from the waters. Like that to me is like it's like we're at the bottom of the sea.
No, he's saying that the water, he separated it and put a firmament, rakia dome, if you like, and then above the dome is some of the water. And inside the dome is the rest of the water, which we call our seas and oceans and lakes and everything else.
I know, but you missed the bit where I said to me, and then you said no. And I'm like, yeah, to me, that's how it seems. It's my interpretation of what I'm reading. It seems to be a dome under the sea.
I don't know what you're...
I kind of have to... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
I agree with Anthony. Because the way it reads, it's almost like there's waters above and waters underneath, and there's a dome. So it sounds like what the things was created inside the firmament.
I agree.
Inside the water.
No, I agree. It's just their separation is the firmament, whether it's a half circle or full circle, it doesn't really matter.
And let's not forget, there's more evidence for Noah's Ark than there is for gravity. I mean, that's a killer sentence, because at least they've got a boat, right? Whether it's the right boat or not, it doesn't really matter. At least they've got a boat in the mountains of Ararat where they say it should be. And you can argue over whether it is or it isn't, but at least it's still more credible, tangible evidence than gravity's got. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, ballers.
Hey, how about the evidence of a worldwide flood in every part of this world?
Yeah, they deny that.
And that doesn't work on a heliocentric model, the flood. But it works in the biblical cosmology with the stored waters below and above.
My bad, Regis.
Go ahead, Charlie.
People have problems with using the word firmament, but yet I have a CIA document in my phone right now that uses both the words firmament and flat earth.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, it's just like these guys know, man.
Hey, Anthony, that Eden project. Anthony,
say again?
That Eden project you're talking about, Anthony?
Yeah.
It has a dome.
Yeah.
Well, what does that tell you?
Well, I don't know, symbology in it. It's just symbolic as.
No. You're saying it's self-sustaining, right? But they need a container.
Well, that's right. Yeah. It's like it's like all those mountains that are all in Antarctic regions. In Antarctica, for some reason, they name a lot of the mountains domes, and it's like of all the names to use for a mountain, not a cliff, not a mountain, not a ravine or whatever. I mean, what mounts, hills, whatever words that you might use to describe a mountain, and they use the word dome, and it's like, you got to be kidding me, right? It just seems to be taking the piss.
Yeah, it's just when the Catholic, again, I was a former Catholic, so I say it with a little bit of experience. When they say they believe in the Bible, it's not true. They don't believe in the Bible. They use the Bible, but they teach Catholicism. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the higher echelon, the people who are the deceivers.
Yeah, it's interesting how the constitution of this topic kind of all points back to a biblical creation. And I'm not even religious. I was brought up Christian as a kid, so I understood how like Easter and all the stuff that they teach you in Sunday school. And Nathan's brought up the same way. But I've kind of stepped away from it as an adult, certainly in my earlier adult years. But everything's kind of leaning back to it now. It's like, yeah, it has to be created. Is it God with a little g? Is it God with a big G? Or is it anything? Or ultimately, it's definitely not evolution the way we're told. I'm happy that it's not evolution.
Anthony, could being come from non-being?
No.
So then it's God with a big G.
I know. I was just doing it like metaphorically, I guess.
I know. I'm just doing my part.
I'm not an expert on this, but what does it mean when they say, "Let us create man in our image"?
That's the word. Yeah, that's the plural singular for God, Elohim. It's singular, yet it's spoken in plural. So that's where the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, let us make man in our image. What was the image of God prior to Jesus taking a body? Well, it's spirit. God is.
Thanks, Paul.
God is a spirit, the Holy Spirit's a spirit, and Jesus was a spirit until he took the form of a man. Now he's got a resurrected body of flesh and bone.
Sorry to interrupt.
So that's the Trinity.
Sorry to interrupt. So, well, Easter's on screen. That's not why I interrupted. So I think Travis and Chris are both trying to get a word in and have been for a while. I don't know who wants to go first.
All right.
Travis or Chris?
I was just asking if chocolate was CIA material.
Nah, I'm not government, not a G-man. But apparently the government likes to release documents that talk about flat Earth and firmaments and that people aren't sure of the shape of the Earth. I mean, they're out there, man. NASA documents, CIA, Army. They're all over if you're willing to look.
Yeah, but what they do is they find convenient excuses to be able to dismiss the merit of what the document states. So, for instance, that guy, what's his name now? That astronomist.
Danny Faulkner.
Danny Faulkner, yeah. He said about that NASA document that references the stationary and non-rotating plane. He references that as simply a parameter that the document's working within, rather than a statement that we should take as literal. And I'm like, well, that's easy to say it like that, but
yeah, that's cute. Why would it take that parameter?
It doesn't need
that
to
would
be
be completely opposite of the parameter that we're supposed to live in, right? What would be the purpose of that?
Yeah,
the document saying take this parameter as being the parameter you use, flat, and then he's simultaneously saying, but they don't mean literally use it as a parameter. Yeah, they do. They quite literally specify that.
Yeah.
So if he's willing to misquote and even go against what the Bible says, and now with these documents misquote and change what parameter means, what does that tell you about this person?
He's either in it for money or he's just out to deceive people.
Not out to deceive people, just deceived.
Well,
deceived.
You can't blame him, right? You can't blame him because, I mean, a NASA document stating that the Earth is flat and non-rotational is pretty detrimental. That's NASA. They show you the complete opposite.
So
he's an
I can add a little.
Responsible.
So I talked to Dr. Faulkner.
Oh, go ahead, Chris. Go on.
So on Friday, after I jumped on the debates for a little bit, I did see Dr. Faulkner at the conference. Now I was talking with Travis, aka the Plain Truth, and we saw him walking by, and it was sort of just happenstance. I asked Travis, I said, "Hey, have you seen Dr. Faulkner, here?" And he said, "Actually, that's him right there." And as I turn around, he's walking past us, and I said, "Hey, let's grab him." I go, "I want to ask him a couple questions." So he said, "Okay." So we called him over. I said, "Hey, Dr. Faulkner, can we speak to you for a minute?" And he said, "Sure." And he was, he came over and just asked him a couple questions. The first question I really asked him was like, "Well, what are you doing here?" I said, "What, are you just interested, or are you trying to, learn more, or what? And he said, yeah, basically learn more. He's like, I'm always learning. He said he's been to all 3 of the North America Flat Earth conferences, so that was interesting. So he said the first, he just put his book out, so he'd been to the first 2, and one was in Raleigh and one was in Denver, and he said he just was coming to this one to see, if there's any new or additional arguments or topics that he could, get into a research. So that was kind of how it started, and then pretty much I only got a couple questions, and my very next question was, are you interested in debating a flat earther? His answer was basically, and I'm paraphrasing, was no. No, not interested, or no, not really, something to that effect. And I told him after that, I said, that's one of the big criticisms that the ball side is getting, and that you're going to get, is that, with these claims and a book and everything, I said, you really need to be prepared to debate someone. So let's see what else. That was mostly it. Like I say, Travis was there, and he kind of got a couple questions in. Travis sort of turned it more biblical, kind of like you guys are talking about. Dr. Faulkner said his understanding of the word rakia was expand. He does not accept that it means firmament or some type of piece of metal or whatever some of those other definitions are. So take that for what it's worth.
Cool. Well done. Who's causing
hold
on. Somebody in the G Plus Hangouts had to close the line.
That was Paul. I sent him a Skype message to mute, but he finally did when Chris is done. I hardly heard what Chris said.
I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about that.
Sorry, Paul.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Sorry.
No, you don't need to apologise.
Yeah.
I had to close down their line because somebody was rumpusing you. It was Paul with his mic wide open.
I didn't know.
No worries.
I can summarize much shorter. In summary, he doesn't want to debate a flat earther, and he believes rakia means expanse and not any type of a firmament, dome, or metal. There you go.
Right, but when he says that, he doesn't have the Hebrew backing him at all.
And it makes no sense in the context of Werner von Braun's tombstone or gravestone if he takes it to mean expanse. Unless I suppose you could argue expanse.
So he claimed to have spoken with a Hebraic expert, and that was the Hebraic expert's connotation of that word and scenario.
Well, he's sorely mistaken, because all you got to do is go into the actual root word, and it doesn't say expanse. It says the opposite. It says hard substance. Molten glass is referred to. And David Heisner, who's an expert in this old ancient languages, says, look, there's no getting around it. To the Hebrews, it was a dome.
And with that, I'll say, if you're watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of today's debating panel on G Plus and Discord, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream for smashing the super chat, hopefully commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Shout out to MC Universe Sacred Truth Seeker for hitting the super chat.